You see it bouncing and my things like popping off of there? That's kind of funny. Bilateral agreement. What do you think a promise is? Unilateral. I think I would agree with that. It's a kind of a one-way thing, right? So it's unilateral. Okay.
I'm having a little trouble separating unilateral law from bilateral because the covenant is a binding agreement between God and all his people. More than one and more than one.
Well, that's why he's got binding.
Okay.
You mean like a covenant? Yeah.
The law, government passes law, is for everyone, not just one.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, even the people that wrote the law for speeding have to abide by the speeding.
Ah, so you're challenging saying that's not unilateral. Okay, I like where you're thinking.
Well, and typically laws are voted on. I guess they can be like.
Okay.
It's on the ballot.
Yeah.
Vote yes, vote no.
So we've talked about a lot of those. So let's go through a biblical example and let's try to see. So we talked about the human laws. I think there's good arguments around that. I'm not debating whether it is. Now we can split hairs. That's not the point.
The Ten Commandments is a law. Just throw it out there.
Throw that one out there? That's a good one. Let's try that one. Let's see if that one fits. Let's say, so we got 10, yeah, we'll call it commandments. Why not?
So now you're really blurring lines. Where's the law versus the covenant?
Oh, isn't that crazy? All right. yeah, right? So it's fun, though. This is what's the fun about it. Let's try to blur it and try to figure it out a little bit more. So you got those laws, and we're going to use the Ten Commandments as an example. Give me a promise that's a biblical promise.
When Abraham arrived in Israel, God made him a promise.
I love it.
He said,
What was his promise?
I will give you this land for your descendants. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your descendants as numerous as the
So
stars.
God made a promise to Abraham. Clear one, Bob.
If you walk
Oh, is it contingent? Was it?
yes.
Okay. All right, we got Venus popping up here. Sharon first, and then Roberta.
He promised Noah that he would never flood here.
Oh, the flood. What do you say? Yeah, I'm just gonna call it the. How about the rainbow promise?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, all right, all right. It's not what everybody else, what common culture says is the rainbow.
Taking it back.
All right. So I'm gonna go the rainbow promise because I like that one. Okay, that's a problem. So let's look at both of those. Are they promises, and are they the kind of the same thing? First of all, we didn't talk about like the rainbow much. What is the rainbow? Who gave the promise? God did. What did we do to deserve that promise? Is it unilateral or bilateral? Is it something we have to do for that promise to hold true? No, right? So it's a unilateral promise. Roberta, got to come?
Yes and no.
What's that? Yes and no?
Yes and no, because the earth
Oh,
will
come
be destroyed, the animals will die, people will die. But here's the point.
But he says we'll never destroy it. Bob.
Listen for a moment. We like to make a distinction between that, but in reality, the distinction is not that clear.
No, it's not.
Because the covenant includes the laws and promises.
All right, take away the. Well, I'm done. No, but you're spot on. I agree with you 100%. So I'm not trying to split hairs that these aren't overlap. It's fun for us to think through because there's a deeper spiritual meaning when we do think through these things. And what does it mean? Rainbow's great. The promise that I'm not going to send a flood again. Today, while I hear about California getting a lot of rain right now, I'm not presently worried that they're going to get so much rain that we're going to flood here and flood the rest of the United States.
No.
I'm not. I don't believe God would let that happen.
I've never worried about the world being flooded out again because God made that promise with us. And that
God made the promise. Similarly, you could say through Abraham, God made a promise. But did that promise really start at Abraham?
No, it could have been from Adam.
Where did the promise of a Redeemer start as we know it in biblical terms? Genesis. Yeah. And we even know in other parts of the Bible that promise was potentially even made before that. Right? Before the world was created. So we have this promise, and I'm going to say there's a promise that there's going to be a Savior. It happened to be given to Abraham also, that through your lineage it's going to come. But that's not where it started. It started before then. There was a promise made by God that I'm going to fulfill this concept. And then he had people who participated in different ways all through the journey, including us. Okay, so covenant. What would be...
Wait, there's one more.
Okay, go ahead. What's up?
John 14:3.
Yeah.
This is an important promise.
Okay, go ahead.
And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come back.
Very nice.
Take you to be with me also.
And what's the promise then? Help me understand. What is that promise? Give me which piece of that you want to.
He promises to come back for us.
The coming back.
Second time.
Yeah, second coming. I
Yes,
like it.
Tom.
He's going to come again. I like it. Now, no matter what I do, is that promise going to be fulfilled?
Yes.
Yeah. Not dependent on me. I call it unilateral. That's what I think is what the lesson was trying to say: is unilateral versus bilateral. Anyways, give me a covenant. Give me an example of then of a covenant.
I think the other promise was that whenever the apostles were watching Jesus go up into the sky,
Yeah.
they said, while you're looking, he's coming back the exact same way.
Yeah.
So there's another promise.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said that it's not like, I promise you he'll be doing it. There's no, what the word promise in front of it, but the meaning of that.
But give us more insight into the promise, into what the promise was going to look like. I like it. Okay.
So I think we established in that quarterly not too long ago, there was a fundamental difference between a covenant and an agreement.
Okay.
So to your question, what is a covenant? It is a holy contract.
Okay. I like it. There's a spiritual connotation to it versus a contract. I agree with that. Give me an example of a biblical covenant.
So it's all through the Old Testament. It's always, if you obey my commandments, if you keep my statutes and you follow my way, I will bless you. I'll cause you to ride my face of land. However, if you don't, I will give you over to your desires and passions, and then you will be, you'll be attacked by enemies. Your wealth will be taken. You'll have no grain stored in the storehouses. So all throughout the Old Testament,
Beasts of the field will eat you and so forth.
yeah, you obey. I'm going to bless you. You disobey. Hey, you're not going to be blessed. And it's
There's a bunch of if-thens, right? If you do this, then that's what happens. What's that?
There's a condition, and then there's unconditional, like the covenant of grace, which means you will.
Ah,
You know,
okay. Yeah. But then there's this concept of saying that we call this back to bilateral. Let me describe it this way. I signed a contract for my house, right? What was your personal participation in the contract for my house?
No.
I support you in your desire to have a house and have a place over your head. I support you.
You support me in that, but contractually,
Yeah, nothing.
nothing. You got nothing there, right? The same, right? So what I want to do next is we're going to look at this covenant called salvation, or this covenant called, there's a salvation promise or a covenant that we have. Because salvation is a covenant contract. It is bilateral, right? But it also, now it's global. When we think of salvation as a global contract, everybody can participate in it. And that's nice to think about.
Amen.
But does it really matter if, to me, again, say on the surface level, this one, does it really matter to me if anybody else participates in it? Does that change? Does your participation in it impact my participation in it?
Only with breaking relationships.
Yeah, I was gonna, unless you're not emotionally vested in that relationship, it shouldn't.
Okay, very true in this case, right? Very, very true.
Let's take AT&T for instance. It's a company.
Yeah.
Has many customers. Has the same contract with everybody.
Yeah.
Has the same opportunity for everybody. But the contract is made with me. The same salvation of God is available for everybody. Salvation has many customers, but it's between me and God.
But because we have that salvation, we're going to have a best interest in other people and desire their salvation.
Oh, but is that for the covenant? Oh, that's deep.
But the
Okay,
thing
all
about
right.
all those categories is that we know that in all those categories, one is always faithful and just and will always fulfill the law of the covenant promise. Even if we falter, God's failures are on one side.
Yeah, that's powerful. That's powerful. So what I want to do is I want to tear apart now. Let's try to just because it's fun. I mean, this entertains me. If you hopefully you're being there, seeing some also. Let's take apart and the This week they talk a little bit, and go deeper into covenants, okay? And this quarter we're talking more about covenants. And so that's why we're spending this time today to try to understand it. Is it a law? Is it a covenant? Is it bilateral? Is it unilateral? And then what does it mean to me? What does it mean to my personal life, and what do I need to do? That's what we want to try to find out. So I'm gonna go through the characteristics of a covenant. So this is a covenant in general, all right? A-N-T, I'm a terrible speller. I think you get the point. All right. First of all, the concept is and I want to do this for two things. I want to do this, well, let's first do it for salvation. Let's do it. Salvation is our topic. That's the covenant we're going to look at. And then I want to look at each one of the categories of a covenant, and let's see if how it fits in there. So the first category of a covenant is it's mutual. And we've talked a little bit about that. Who is it mutual between?
Both parties.
What's that?
Both parties.
Both parties. Who are the two parties? God and us.
God and man.
Huh? What was that, Jeff?
The bride being the church and God is.
The church and God, you're saying. Okay. All right. So I'm going to say that it's between.
It's a covenant between God and humans.
It
or
is.
People, or it is a covenant between God and man.
Yes.
God and. Okay, I'll put it as man.
It doesn't matter what I do. If it is between God and man, then I am one man.
Yes. Yeah, and it is mankind, but it's also very much a one-on-one. I cannot be saved based on your salvation. Right? That is not an option.
That's a bummer, isn't it?
I know there's some other religions that have different views on that. That's okay. That's not what we're talking about today. Okay, so salvation, it has to be mutual between two. Next one I like a lot. It has to be achievable. Is salvation achievable?
Yes. Only because of Jesus.
Yes?
Conditional.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm hearing yes, but I'm hearing conditions.
Only because of Jesus is it achievable.
It is achievable.
Only because of Jesus.
Only because of Jesus.
And it's
Okay? I like that. That's a good way to put that. I like that.
So it's a conditional achievability.
Conditional achievability.
Wait a little bit. It's so easy to throw that in, but think about it a little bit. When you talk about the possibility of a contract to stand, you have to take both parties in consideration. If one party breaks a contract, the contract doesn't stand. Do you agree? The contract will fall. So it's achievable only if both parties do their parts. Otherwise, it's not going to stand.
Agreed,
It's the
100%.
same with salvation.
Yes. I agree. If Christ had not done what he had done, it wouldn't have been achievable.
And if you don't accept that, there's no contract.
There's no contract. It's
So
gone.
if we're using that court setting again, the prosecutor would have a field day with us.
But it's also,
And he has every right to.
it's also.
For me, at least. I know that. He's spot on. He wouldn't be wrong. When he points out, I'd be like, yeah, you're right. I did that.
See both sides. God has been so lenient with mankind, it is just unreal. You see it from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
Most contracts, if you miss a payment, they don't immediately cancel your contract.
No.
Or you can't throw you out. They give you time to get yourself back on board.
And I think the technical term of that is there's a grace period.
Grace period, right? Give you that grace period to do it. If you don't do it after that, they still give you a little more grace, but if you don't make it after that, it's over with. God,
Because you know why? They don't really want to lose you as a customer.
no.
They don't want to go through that process. It costs them more to recoup and recover by going through a punitive process.
And it's financially viable because they also put some penalty and interest in it. We're getting way too deep. Let's just keep.
But there is. And there's consequences of that you can't change. When I've made that choice, they give me a grace period, but if I can't, there's still consequences because I am under a covenant with them. Okay, it's all applicable though, right? It's pretty cool. All right, the next one is conditional. Is it conditional? And we're kind of going in there now. On salvation, what are the conditions? What is the conditional agreement?
If
Do what I ask you to do, and life is good.
So it's conditional only on one part, not on the other one. In
Got
other
what
words,
you mean.
God already sent His Son, whether you accept or not.
Sure. Conditional is obedience.
What's that?
It's obedience.
Obedience.
It's not so much an if. It's an obedient factor. It's, are you going to do this because you love him? It's not if you're going to do it. It's, are you going to be obedient? Do you choose to do this?
Because there's-
Again, we're parsing, but that's love, right?
But I think, and I'll even take it, we're only one step in the same direction. It's not just that I do, but does it matter my motivation to do?
Can't fake love.
Can't fake love, I like that. It is conditional, and I think it comes down to then not only the behavior is going to be the outward expression, as we say, what happens on the inside. So those events will happen. It's conditional, but there's still a choice, right? All right, so I'm just going to say yes. I got to keep moving on here. And there's one last thing that they bring out. Can you cancel it? Are there cancellation conditions? I think wiggles so much.
Yes, there is penalty and interest for cancellation.
There's penalty and interest for salvation cancellation.
Most of Christianity would say no.
Really? Why is that?
Most of the people, most of the Christians I know.
Universal
One
salvation.
saved,
No.
always saved?
Yes, right.
No,
Not
that's
even,
not most Christians.
most of the time,
Evangelicals do, yes.
right.
When were you saved?
Yeah, what were you saying? Did anybody ask you that?
We're just not rolling with the right people.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, so this concept, are there cancellation conditions? We say,
The Bible
Yes.
says, the Bible says,
and where does it say that?
numerous places.
Okay, give me one, and even if you don't know off the top of your, the exact verse words, give me a concept. When would they say, give me an example of,
Exodus 20.
what's that?
Exodus 20.
Okay, that which is the Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jesus himself said it when he was here. He said, if you love me, keep my commandments.
Right.
And who wants to be married to someone that doesn't love them? Or at least is
That's a good way to put
not faithful?
Yeah.
Um,
That's really a good way to put it.
Matthew 7:21, where Jesus says, not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven.
Those didn't break the covenant, though. Interestingly, or they didn't think that they got out of the covenant. So there are two options here. Here, either you say, I don't want to have anything with God, and then there's the big majority that they say, well, we are Christians, and we are in this covenant, but in the end,
They're
it's
not.
going to be shown that they were not in.
So Ezekiel 3:18, I think speaks to this. This is where Ezekiel's told, I'm going to make you a watchman over Israel. It says, Ezekiel 3:18 says, when I say to a wicked man, you will surely die, and you do not warn him or speak out to dissuade him from his evil ways in order to save his life, that wicked man will die for his sin, and I'll hold you accountable for his blood. But if you do warn the wicked man, and he does not turn from his wickedness or his evil ways, he will die for his sin, but you will save yourself. So we have an obligation to warn those. But here's the interesting part about if I'm righteous and I'm locked in with God, I'm always saved. Here's the next verse. Again, when a righteous man turns from his righteousness and does evil, and I put a stumbling block before him, he will die. Since you did not warn him, he will die for his sin. The righteous things he did will not be remembered, and I will hold you accountable for his blood. But if you do warn the righteous man not to sin, and he does not sin, he will surely live because he took warning, and you will have saved yourself.
I like it.
Well, with that, well, I thought it was just one-on-one. Now he brought it all down.
Yeah.
We have an obligation.
We have an obligation, but there's also this concept that we hold that it is not something that's a once saved, always saved. We believe there is a cancellation policy. There is a cancellation policy, and that isn't to motivate us out of fear, because I think there's a risk that then we go into the fear mode, right? That we obey because, well, what if he's not going to love me enough, or what if every child I think thinks about this. My parents are going to stop loving me because I did this.
Well, and I think the more practical motivation is that, am I good enough? There's a fault in my character that's going to prevent me from fulfilling my
But is it achievable?
Only because of Jesus.
Only because of Jesus, but it is achievable. We can rest and stand on the promise that salvation is achievable. We get to make a choice, but it is achievable. It is a covenant that is achievable.
I know for a fact, the day my mother and father stopped loving me was the day they died.
Yeah.
God will never stop loving me.
Yeah, that's a powerful example. That's a powerful example. And woe to the families that don't have that as a solid example in their household. All right, so that's the covenants, and so now we're going to go into the next portion of this lesson.
Jesus also said, sorry, just
Yeah, go for it.
one more statement. Jesus said, perfect love drives out fear. So fear is only a short-term motivator. Hey, I'm afraid of that hot place, etc. But she's like, hey, it's more than that. Once you have love, you don't have to worry about that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. There's no doubt the heart that is motivated to do action by love will go significantly further and do more and be more engaged and have a better process than somebody who's motivated by fear.
And there are many religions that base their doing
Yeah.
on fear.
Yeah.
Going
If
to
you
the hot
don't do
place.
this, you'll go to the
This is
hospital.
the consequence.
If you don't convert that or kill that.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, even more than what we think of in our culture, right? For sure, it happens around the world every day. Okay, so there's another contract that this Sabbath school brings. Oh, do you have a comment? I'm sorry.
Well, I
Go
was
ahead.
gonna
Please,
just,
bring it
I know
out.
you have to move on, but
No, keep going.
I think fear is very culturally different because fear doesn't, okay, let me start by saying, fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. That fear is not, oh, I'm scared. You know, that fear is more like, because reverence and honor and respect. So just because the word, like, you know, I don't want us to get stuck on a word
No.
because there's a big context. And I don't think we can really know God without fearing Him. And that is not the, oh, I'm scared of Him. It's because I honor Him, I respect Him. And I mean, the only like earthly example I can say is I fear my parents, not because I'm scared, but I mean, I don't want to disappoint them.
Yeah.
You know, that's the only thing that comes to my mind.
That is a good example.
And that's the
That's
right
good.
fear to have. But
Yeah.
there are other religions that base their doing like check marks, like they have to, or else they.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yes, ma'am.
I hear a lot about what we do when we enter the contract. But what happened with the first contract between the father and the son? Had the son not fulfilled that contract, we wouldn't be here arguing.
Satan knew that, didn't he?
That is the most important covenant available to man.
Well said. I think as Nelson was pointing out also, I think well said, right? It's because of he made that achievable. He made it achievable for us because of what he did. Well said. I like that. Okay, so I'm going to move into the next portion of the Sabbath school lesson, which really was then we take a look at this contract, this covenant called tithe. Now this is where a lot of times we squirm in our seat a little bit, and we start, because it's uncomfortable socially. If I walk up to you and ask you, hey, how much do you make? You feel comfortable telling me? No?
Not enough.
Not enough? Okay. Really? Well, just tell me on your tax return last year, what was the, adjusted gross income? Comfortable sharing that? You ready? No? This is an uncomfortable thing that in our culture, our society, we just don't want to talk about.
Why don't you start by sharing with us?
Exactly. Exactly. So that's my point, is we are uncomfortable with this. So then when we move into this space that's already uncomfortable, and we step a little bit more, which is like, even then now it's a spiritual religious thing, and it has to do with money and how much I make, we all get kind of like a little squirmy. All right, Jason, you're gonna ready to share yours?
Yes. Well, yes, without the numbers, but because I own a business, I never know what I'm making because there's investment involved and
Sure.
all that stuff. It's not until I look at my tithe at the end of the year that I know what I actually make.
All right. An interesting concept. I like that. So what is it that makes us uncomfortable in this space? Why is it something that our culture makes it taboo?
There's another slant to tithe business. I've gave a lot of Bible studies, and the one on heaven, it's such a beautiful. I love giving the Bible study on heaven.
Yeah.
I can give that to anybody. But it comes to the one on tithe, you got a little woman, she
It is not easy. It's not
But I feel like
comfortable.
also, when you learn these traits as a kid, hopefully, some people aren't trained to do that, but if you're not faithful to small things, you're not going to be faithful to much. So if you make, $10, okay, I got to pay $1 on that. Okay, well now if you make $100,000, I have to give $10,000. Well, if you weren't faithful to the $1, you're still not going to give the $10,000. But I feel like, and this sounds extremely selfish, so it just reinforces maybe some people's view of me.
Okay, all right.
I'm too selfish not to pay tithe. Because I've seen how much God has blessed me. So, all of a sudden I'm paying tithe. And also, we always, every time it's offering, on the background will be the Malachi verse, pay your tithes, and see if I open up the floodgates of heaven, that you have so much, that God will cause it to ride in the heights of the land. You don't read the verse before that says, and yet you rob me of this, my tithes and offerings, so I'm not going to cause you to ride in the heights of the land. Talking about covenants and promises. And I always think it's interesting, but once you commit to doing that, and you see how God blesses you in an amazing way, your car breaks down, you're like, oh, it's still under warranty. Well, that car should not have been under warranty for that one part, because the only thing was under warranty, and all of a sudden it fixes. So all these things that happen, and I'm not saying it's always material things, God gives you that peace knowing that, hey, test me in this, and it's going to happen. It's one of the areas that God says test you. So I think if someone's be able to spin it, you realize how much God has blessed you by putting them first. When I was working at U-Haul and filling propane tanks and putting on hitches and all this other stuff, like, I didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
But the money I gave, I will always have more than that. Now, I also changed my priorities. I didn't go out to eat when I was in college.
Right,
I think I went out to eat like one time, but I didn't feel like I missed anything. I didn't lack anything. So I felt like it was such a blessing by doing that I would never do any differently.
Amen.
Thank you for that testimony. I appreciate
I
that.
think the terminology that we use sometimes, I gotta pay my tithe, that's wrong. We need to return our tithe, because everything belongs to God.
So let me answer this question first. Is tithe unilateral or bilateral? The covenant of tithe, unilateral or bilateral?
Unilateral.
It's
Unilateral, you said. It's bilateral.
because you give God from the increase. So first He gives you, and then you give Him back.
Yeah.
Whoa!
And I think it's
Who does the giving first?
He does.
Okay.
I think it's also conditional too, because we got to look out for prosperity gospel. You see all these televangelists that are, hey, send me your money.
God is. Wait a minute. We said we gotta look out for that. So you're saying God is not a generous God?
I'm saying that if your motivation for sowing by returning the tithe is to have a bountiful return.
We do the same as a church.
Okay. So
We do the same as a church. You give it all the time, and we pick up the tithe and offering.
I've never heard.
So we wait a minute. We said over here, this covenant over here, salvation. It had these things. It has consolation and stuff. But the true motivation. This was a conversation with Kevin over here. Where did it have to be in order to be a true covenant that was fulfilled on both sides? What was the motivation over here? Love.
So that was my point. Is that it's not, you can't be outside of God's bride and expect the fruits of return.
So if my motivation over here was love, what would be my motivation under the covenant of tithe?
Exactly.
Same thing.
So I think
Or is it? Or am I looking out for it? Is the God of prosperity God? And I'm going to challenge you to say, yes, He is.
He is, but we have a different concept.
No, but then if my different concept, what is my concept then?
So I guess
Is my concept motivated out of love, or is my concept motivated out of
I think Jeff is
greed?
So I would say, based on how I started off, it was a selfish motivation. Now I reframed it. First of all, everything I have is because God allowed me to have it, not because it's something I've done or something great I've done. So now I give because I realize how much God has blessed me. I want to bless Him.
Okay.
This is one small way I can do it.
Okay, coming back in.
So I think the problem is that we've painted giving tithes as a way of receiving back money.
So you pay this way, and then it comes back.
It comes back to me when really the blessings may come monetarily, but the blessings could come in many, many different forms.
Ooh.
But the idea is that you're doing this and you're giving this. So what if my motivations are selfish and God in a way is saying, you're going to give it to me. You're not going to get back monetarily, but I'm going to bless you in other ways because I've got to break you down from this idea that this is a two-way. You give me money, I give you a lot of money back, which is what a lot of churches have painted the whole idea of tithe giving as doing that. The blessings come in many, many different ways. And so I think you have to get out of that, and that is to I give back to God because He loves me so much, this is the way I'm going to show Him that I love Him, by giving back to Him what He already owns.
Absolutely. I love it. And what do I have till? Do anybody remember what time? 10:40? Should I have 10 minutes?
May I say something
10:40.
to that, please?
Okay. Yeah.
We focus so much on the future when we talk about tithe and about prosperity gospel. And this is absolutely wrong. Because the tithe is specifically to be given from the prosperity God already gave you.
Yeah.
God already did His part. When do we talk about what God will do in the future? We'll pay tithe for what God will give us in the future. In the future. The tithe is what God already did His part. And it's the same with salvation. We talk about salvation. God already gave His Son.
I love it. Boy, it's interesting. Fantastic, Robert. You just 2 steps ahead of me. I love it. I love it.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just say one thing
First.
is when I was in academy, there was this pastor, J.D. Miller, and he always said, "I never pay my tithe." He said it to all us kids in academy. I'm like, wow, what kind of teacher are you? Right?
Yeah.
I always return my tithe.
Yeah.
Because
And it stuck with you forever. That's a great example.
God provided. I return. What's his
Yeah, He already provided. Is anybody else here this morning? In the last 24 hours, has everybody else eaten in this room? In the last 24 hours. Anybody who hasn't, stick around. We got potluck today. Okay?
That was a little bit what I was.
All right.
But anyway, now, I don't think anybody in here has only made $2.50 an hour for work. I have. When I first started, $2.50 an hour was a good salary.
Yeah.
Because the dollar was strong.
Yeah.
But then Wayne and I, we had children, we got married, had children, and then we joined the Adventist church, and we started sending them to the schools,
Yeah.
and we were paying tithe, and so we wrote down, I got down and wrote down everything that we spent, groceries, this, that, and other. And I looked at Wayne and I said, how are we doing this?
Yeah.
It did not add up on the paper.
I've been there myself, sister. I can attest to that same thing. When you look at it and you say, I don't get it. Math does not get me there. I don't want to know, frankly.
But it's hard.
Frankly, I back away. I said, I want to give God the glory and just back away.
What Wayne
That's
said,
hard.
what Wayne said, and then you just said, how many has Hickman?
Yeah. What is our blessing? What's our blessing? Our bank account?
This room, I don't think, has been in the situation to where their child does not have something to eat. My grandson, he's hungry all the time. Hungry, I'm starving. He doesn't know what starving is.
No, he doesn't.
Wayne knows what starving is.
Yeah.
When he was in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Those people starved, those kids.
Yeah.
The army people fed those kids or they were starved. So, to be in their shoes, we don't know. It's between them and God. When you're giving a Bible study, you can't say, this is what the Lord wants you to do. The Lord may not see. They're looking out another window than we're looking at.
For sure.
Because God's given them another window.
Because I'm a completion kind of guy, I want to at least fill out my little chart here because I feel like some type of satisfaction on doing that. So let's go through this. Is tithe a mutual covenant? Is tithe? We said it was bilateral, correct? I want to make sure we got that. We're saying that there's a give and a take in this contract. Is it mutual? And who is it between? God and man. I'm going to go with the same, right? Is it potential to say that? So, between God and...
But the problem is we cannot ever outgive God.
Okay, I agree with that. Is it achievable? Let me get through my little chart here. Let me get through my little chart. Is it achievable? Huh?
Get that chart filled out.
I know I need to. This is bothering me.
But I don't agree with what was said before.
Okay, go ahead. All right, go for it.
Because the tithe doesn't have anything to do with what God gives over us. The lesson just pointed out that one of the promises that are unilateral is that He will give
So that's a
There
promise.
are so many people that everybody gets it, but not everybody gives the tithing back. So the tithing is not necessarily a covenant.
Okay? You know what I'm saying?
It's a response to what God already did.
Do you think
He will do it.
All right.
it's more of a command? Do you think it's more of a command? Command?
It's a command, but then why do we do it? So I'm gonna get to this. I got some comments on that, but I'm gonna keep moving here. Achievable, is it achievable? Is what's asked of us an achievable?
Yes.
Yeah. Anybody disagree with that?
Only because of Jesus.
Only because of Jesus. Okay, I like that. We can use the same, right? Ditto here, right? I'll just say ditto.
God is not asking to give from what you don't have.
We're not asked to.
No, you are asked to give from what you have.
What you have. So is it achievable? And the same thing, we're saying that God gives you first,
Yes.
then you pay out of that. It's not like He's asking you for next year's tithe today.
Achievable if you're financially responsible.
Okay, all right. I got 3 minutes of what that little clock says up there.
You're not gonna buy a new car with the same amount you've been getting, and
So if I'm not a good steward with what He's blessed me with, you're saying, then whose responsibility? Is that God's responsibility, or is that my responsibility? Should God give me more so that I can also have a car? That's a fair question.
It all comes back to love. If you love the Lord, you'll do what He wants you to do, and it will be that.
Yeah.
And using the farming metaphor that's in the Bible, it's the first tenth.
Yeah, first hand. Absolutely.
So
Is it
if you're
conditional?
responsible, it's the 90% that you're irresponsible.
Is tithing conditional? Is tithing conditional?
Yes, because you give from what God already gave you. And then it's not a fixed money that you give back. Everybody gives according to what they receive.
It's not conditional based on Malachi, though. I, the Lord your God, do not change. And then it goes on, hey, are you going to rob me?
Yeah.
What's he mean by that?
Wait, is he really referring to tithing? What happens if you rob somebody, if you steal from somebody, are you breaking the tithing covenant? If I steal from Jeff, am I breaking the tithing covenant?
If you don't tithe on what you steal.
Oh, okay. So as long as I steal from him and then I tithe on it, that's a great point. That's a great point. I would meet the tithing covenant, but I would be breaking anything else.
That's why the steal cars on Sabbath.
That's right. You should steal cars. All right, but it's conditional. There is a condition on this one. We are asked to respond on this one. And then we can get some more debate about that around lunchtime. Can it be canceled? Can tithing be canceled?
Yes, on our side, we can cancel. God will continue to keep giving. Because I never paid tithes until I started just these 7 days in church.
It is cancelable. I can stop. I have the choice. It is my choice. God's given me that free will choice. I can cancel that agreement. And will God stop sending His promise to me? His promise of rain and sunshine? He will not. He's a promise. That's unilateral.
Can I say something very short?
All right, but we got a minute
See how
22.
Jesus says at one point about Jerusalem, what else could have I done? What more could have I done?
Yeah.
On our side, we talk about how little can you do for God. And that's 10%.
Oh, why
He
you
says that
gotta say
even
that?
1% to God. Huh?
Why you gotta say that, huh?
Because we have to get to a point where we can say, like Jesus, what more can I have to do?
So this is an uncomfortable subject that we're going to broach the rest of this quarter. We're just getting warmed up about this concept of tithing and stewardship and stuff. There's more fun to come in our discussion on this one. I hope you enjoyed today. I have enjoyed today. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 25 through 33, I won't have time to read it, but God talks about how His blessings, how He gives to the sparrow, how He gives to everybody. He gives to you, He gives to me abundantly. If you're not tithing, that contract is not between you and me. The contract is between you and God. Let's look at our motivation. Just like salvation, we don't do it because we get salvation. We can do it out of love. Let's pray. God, we thank you so much for this exciting discussions. God, we want to understand you better. God, we don't want to bottle that up so it's just something that we get to hold on to. We want it to burst out of us, this excitement and this joy of this gift and this salvation that you've given us, to just overflow outside of us. So we just can't wait to talk to somebody around us. God, I can't wait to see what you're going to do for this church. I can't wait to see what you're going to do for us individually. Thank you for allowing us to have enough to be able to give back our tithe. We love you. Can't wait till you come. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, everybody.